Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Random. Egberto Willis, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We're going to have a great show for you today. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. It's going to be a great day. It's going to be a great show. Anyhow, what are we going to talk about today? Today, we have the Attorney General, the Minnesota Attorney General, Keith Ellison, who I interviewed at Netroots Nation 2023 in Chicago. We had a great interview. I think you guys are going to love it. Likewise, there's a little piece that I heard on TV today where Andrea Mitchell was kind of scolded by a senator. I think it was very important to prevent the false equivalence that normally occurs when we have the right side and the left side. And, you know, it always seems like the mainstream media is always trying to appease the right. In other words, they're always trying to do things in such a manner that to appease the right wing, to say, okay, yeah, we had to hit you up on this. Let's find something on the left on which to hit you up to. False equivalencies, all of the times, something that has got to stop. Welcome aboard, Yvette Avery Herod. Good afternoon, she says, to the PDR posse. Welcome together again, our one and only Brige MCP. Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain. Great to have you here with us. And of course, we have El Señor AV Cube, El Señor Michael Rudnin. How are my peeps doing today? I trust all is fine with all of you. Anyway, trying to get our folks in. Get those emails out. I think the emails just went out to get folks on. But don't forget, folks, please remember to go ahead and hit that like button on Facebook. Get that thumbs up button on YouTube, and whatever you need to do on Twitch, on LinkedIn, and everywhere else that we are streaming live. You know, again, most people watch this as a podcast, not as a live stream. But you know what? We would love to get more people on the live stream, get more conversation, get more going. Anyway, folks, also remember you can call into our program. The number is 281-823-7747. Again, that number is 281-823-7747. We do take calls now on this channel. 281-823-7747. Anyhow, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I want to go ahead and get started with El Señor. Let's see. Michael Rodriguez Egberto, regarding the false equivalency, reminds me of a tune of mine that was recently shared by a friend. Great. Thank you for that. I'll check that out when I can, my dear friend. But anyhow, folks, do remember that we are here for the truth. We are here to get things going. Let's go ahead and move on to Keith Ellison. Keith Ellison is going to, check out Keith and then we'll take it on the other side. Let's see where that goes now. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willis. Today we are honored to have the Attorney General of Minnesota, El Señor Keith Ellison. It used to be Representative Congressman Keith Ellison, and I spoke to you a few years ago, actually once at the Detroit airport. But how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm doing really well. Thank you. Muy bien.
Muy bien. Está bien. But let me tell you something, Attorney General.
Yeah. Or Keith.
Yeah. Let me tell you, I can't tell you how impressed I was the way you handle that case that brought the nation to its knees.
Yeah, man.
And let me tell you, first of all, nobody expected Keith Ellison to do the job that he did. And I can tell you something else. Singularly, there's a lot that could have happened that the way in which you handled that case prevented it from happening. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, I that's why I wrote this book, Break the Wheel,
right.
Ending the Cycle of Police Violence, because what I do at every juncture, every point of critical decision making is to talk about how it could have gone in a lot of different ways.
Right.
A lot of the credit does not go to me or even my team. It goes to the young people on the scene when George Floyd was murdered, who had the alertness of mind to stop and photograph what happened. That was essential.
Right.
But then, within a very few short hours, the Minneapolis Police Department sent out a document saying that an inebriated man died of a medical emergency.
Right.
So then people looked at their report, compared it to the video, and that really began to spark outrage. By 1 o'clock in the morning, by like 1:46 in the morning, Darnella Frazier, 17-year-old kid, posts this, and then that is what really shocked the world. Within 24 hours, about 2.5 million people had seen that video, and then people were on the streets. They were marching. They were pushing the envelope. They were demanding change. And then that mass movement is what prompted the county attorney to, hey, my brother, good to see you. The county attorney to ask me to join him on the case, and then 2 days later, the governor appointed me to lead the case. So that was that. But things could have gone another direction. You know, like look at Breonna Taylor, which happened a few months before. Very little public attention, very little public discussion, and they were ready to just route that out to oblivion, like they do so many cases.
Well, I think you're being a bit too humble here when you talk about this. Not what the case. Somebody could have made that case a lot more different, as we know elsewhere. So I mean,
no, I see people destroy cases.
But I mean,
I see prosecutors ruin cases a lot.
That's what I'm talking about.
And they don't call the right witnesses. They don't call any witnesses. They take it to the grand jury. And then the grand jury is secret. And then the grand jury says, oh, there's no bill of indictment. What the prosecutor doesn't tell you is they never put the facts or the law in front of the grand jury, which is exactly what happened in Breonna Taylor's case. And the guy who did it, Daniel Cameron, is the current attorney general in Kentucky, and he's running for governor. And the grand jurors publicly accused him of lying on them. So I guess my point is, you're absolutely right. Doing these cases, there are a lot of discretionary decisions that happen along the way where you can just basically dump the case. And you can look like you're doing something, but really be operating against justice.
And that is what was impressive. You stayed behind the scene when you needed to stay behind the scene, and you showed a face when you needed to show a face. And I think that requires a lot. But anyway, going on to another subject. Recently, you went ahead and helped out a whole bunch of folks who were into these homes. Tell us a little bit about that story.
Well, housing is a major focus of what we do. As you know, as Attorney General, consumer protection is a big deal. Now, who is a tenant is a consumer of housing services. And we had a lot of people in this very tight housing market, which is all over the country. We had a lot of people who were living in squalid conditions, and these landlords that we were dealing with basically took the attitude that, well, if you leave us, you're not going to find any better place, so we don't have to do a good job taking care of your place. Well, we had another thing coming. We sued them. We make tenants and housing a central part of the work that we do, and we insist on enforcing the landlord-tenant laws. And so we sued a guy named Stephen Meldal recently, and nailed him for literally millions. We also were suing a group called Havenbrook Homes or Progress Homes now. They're owned by a hedge fund called Pretium, and they have been taking advantage of consumers, not refunding deposits. Not keeping up with the laws regarding lead safety, and doing a number of other things that we allege violate consumers' rights. So we're holding them accountable. We're going to keep doing it. But here's my message. I know there's folks out here who own property, they rent it out, and they do a good job. God bless them. The ones that don't, we're going to be holding them accountable. We're not going to allow families to be in squalid conditions as you rake in rents. And that's just, and this problem is part of a larger problem. The larger problem is that after 2008, there was a lot of property on the market because of the foreclosure crisis. It was bought up by the investors, hedge funds, private equity, and they then get into the residential lending business. And then they buy up so much property that they're in a position to literally drive up rents in the whole region. And this is, I think, is an antitrust problem. but it's also a consumer protection problem.
Right.
Because once they get that property, we've often seen it being not handled and taken care of properly.
To the listeners here, and especially our folks here in Texas, this is what a working attorney general is supposed to be doing. The reason I started the questions the way I did is because we have attorney generals in state after state after state that it's an attorney general by name only. We don't quite know what they do except for corporations, what they do for the people at large.
So you're in Texas?
I'm in Texas.
Yes. So your attorney general is under...
It's under indictment.
Under indictment.
And also he was
impeachment.
Impeached. Yeah.
And so this guy is... Ken Pax is not there for the people.
Keith, most of the times, our attorney generals are not. The reason I brought those two subjects up, one was criminal, one was civil.
Right.
The reason I brought those up is to show what how attorney generals actually perform.
That's right.
One that's doing the work for the state.
So good questions. And doing the work for the state, but doing it for the people of the state.
Exactly.
And so I'm agreeing with you here. We also represent the institutions of the state government.
Exactly.
We represent, the Department of Veterans Affairs, the Department of Pollution Control, and they're supposed to be working on behalf of the people
Absolutely.
too. But we represent the institutions of the state, the people of the state, for criminal justice and public safety. And we also do other things. Like I'm on the board of the pension board for the state. I'm on the pardon board for the state. And things like that. So that's when you and I met when I was in Congress.
Right.
I left because even though Congress is really important and I was honored to serve there, I thought I could do more for my neighbors at the Attorney General
And that's what you did.
That's what I did.
That's what you did. Now, interestingly, today on the phone, I'm talking to different entities, and I try to put that out there that we are responsible for electing people, not for rhetoric, but for what they're going to go out there and do.
Acción.
Lo que estamos buscando, la acción. And that's
Por
what
supuesto.
There you go. Oh, I'm going to start calling you mi Latino favorito, man. Go ahead.
Mi español necesito mucho ayuda.
But you know what is great, Keith?
What?
I bet every single one of your Latino constituents, the mere fact that you can say that, you're like, oh, él es mi hombre.
Yeah.
But,
mi hombres.
Mi nombre es Keith. But look, let's before we go, I know you may have your time, but I want to hit on politics now. We talked about reality now. Politics. What does politics have? First of all, before we go into what politics have in store for you, tell me the state of our politics right now.
Well, we're living in an era of minority rule.
Right.
We're in a democratic society that is dominated by a group of people who have views that are hostile and adverse to the overwhelming majority.
Right.
Give you an example. Most people want background checks on guns, 90%, and yet the powerful elite types control and say no. Most people want health care for all. The powerful elites say no. Most of people want competitive markets. They want to be able to open up a small farm, open up a small business, and be able to get into it. Markets are concentrated by the big, and they say no. So we live in an era of minority rule. Most people think that a woman can make her own decisions about reproduction. But you know what? Whether you think it's sin or not, it's her choice.
Exactly.
But they say, no, it's the government choice.
But then they want small government, and they want
small government for them.
Non-intrusive, right.
Well, see, here's what they want. They want socialism for themselves.
Right.
Public money going to the big dogs.
Exactly.
Elon Musk will take all the public money he can get. So will Donald Trump. So will all the rest of them. But they want rugged individualism for everybody else.
Exactly.
So that's how they operate. That's how they see the world. They see themselves as entitled. They see everybody else. They believe that more money for them is good public policy. Prosperity for everybody else is bad public policy.
And Brother Keith, the important thing then is, how are we, this is where I'm talking about your politics now.
I'm listening, brother. Yeah.
How are we going to ensure we change the politics to make sure that folks with your mindset and other folks ready to run actually get the backing that they need to go out there and do it.
Well,
I mean, you've been successful. Let's put a stop there. You've been able to do it. I mean, the fact that you are Attorney General of Minnesota says a lot.
Yeah, 5.7 million Minnesotans.
I don't know how people can discount that.
We've been winning.
Discounted. Exactly.
It has not been easy.
I know it hasn't, but again, what's great is when you perform, people have a tendency to reward performance if you remind
Nosotros ganamos.
Nosotros ganamos. Exactly right. So tell me, what can you tell to these other politicians that need to understand that they don't have to conform, that they can actually take the position that you take as long as people know they're being helped?
Be authentic. Stay in close contact with the people. Listen to people.
Right.
And if you do those things, the people will fund your campaign.
Right.
The people will knock the doors. If you are faithful to the people will support you. And if you lose because you did the right thing, then fine. Then so what? Go on to the next thing.
But there's a damn good chance you'd win.
There's a damn good chance you're going to win. In fact, your chances of winning are better the more you align yourself with the will of the people.
Yeah.
And but I just want to say this. Many politicians go into office and they'll do anything to win. But if you do anything to win, then maybe if the big money rich guy says, I'm going to fund your campaign, and you think, oh, that's how I'm going to win, then you water down what Miss McGillicuddy told you, with what Miss Garcia told you. And now all of a sudden, you're not operating on behalf of the people.
There you go.
So you just stick close to the people. You're probably going to win if you do what the people want. If you don't, then that's an honorable loss, and you go do something else.
Keith Ellison,
my brother,
good closer. Thank you so kindly, mi hermano. Thank you so kindly for being a part. Yo soy de Panamá.
Panamá.
Sí, pero soy americano, naturalizado.
Me gusta Panamá.
Okay, está bien. All right, man. Hey, thank you, my brother. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel. And number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed that. That was Keith Ellison, the Attorney General of Minnesota. And, you know, it's amazing that this guy became the Attorney General of Minnesota. You know, what proves, and this is something that I was telling him offline as well, what proves how good he is that who he is was superseded by what he does. Or rather, what he does superseded who he is, which is great. Bridge MCP says, pretty good guy. Michael Rudden says, you don't need to speak their language to be considered their ally, though it sure helps. Tag in Xiomara NYC en Español. Likewise, let's see what we have. Michael Rudden said, nearly all Democratic ideas on the issues that matter track with what people say they want in polls. While Republicans who have gone so far into right-wing extremism that they barely have two such polling results, they should translate to blue wins at upcoming elections, and we the people push away from the alt-right. Is that I like the way you put that. Okay. All right. Maywood is in the house. Welcome, Maywood. Bruce Pollard is in the house. He says, Hunter's lawyers didn't read the fine print. Eric Hayes tends to believe that defund the police is the wrong thing. Let me clarify something. Defund the police, what it meant was take quite a bit of the money that goes into police officers doing jobs that really don't require law enforcement but require social work, channel that money to social work. Channel that money to people who can do the job. Now, uh, Eric make a false statement. He says defund is defund, and if you want dead social workers, so be it. That will be on your conscience. Not really. Most police officers never point their guns at anyone. It's the same core of police officers that usually get in to shoot them up bang bangs. Those overzealous type cops. Very few officers actually shoot their guns. Check that out. Very few officers shoot their guns. What it proves again is it proves that England proves that you can have police officers without guns and security is maintained and order is maintained, right? You don't need a gun to maintain order. You just need authority. Just need the people to have respect for the authority figure, and that takes it up. So, folks, don't buy into that. The truth is, defund the police. Again, it was a bad choice of words given who we know the right wing is. The right wing will change anything or lie about anything to try to give themselves an upper hand. We ought to be smarter than that and make sure that they can't use our own monikers against us, which is what they did with defund the police. And the good thing about it is Americans are smartening up, and defund the police is not having any traction at all. Defund the police has zero traction these days. And for those who it has traction for, they're already in the camp that cares nothing about cares nothing about voting for those who protect, but instead voting for those who have them snowed. So yeah, that is a deal. All right, let's see. Let's go ahead and take a call here. Welcome to Politics Done Right. Who do I have the honor of speaking with?
Hey, Brother Egberto, this is Ray from 3rd Ward.
Ray, how are you doing, sir? I haven't heard from you in a while. How you been?
Yeah, man, I've just been, trying to take it one day at a time since my mother passed, but I've still been trying to tune in. It's hard to get up for that 6 a.m. show, but I do be tuning in on the back end. But one day you might be surprised and you'll hear my voice. But shout out to the guys who...
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll shout out to the guys who make it work for you. Was it
Howard
Jack
Reynolds and Jack Van Beber?
Yeah. I always like Jack when he comes with his wisdom, and Howard, I love his personality. Like y'all really made this a thing, and I appreciate it. But I actually had something else I wanted to highlight.
Let me just tell you a little Van Beber story. How we started that stuff with asking Van Beber to give a little word, right? Van Beber called me up one time and I said, he said, we need to talk and we should probably go have breakfast or something. And he's not the type that likes to go out to restaurants. So he stayed home and he made us 2 burritos, great burritos. And we went to Lake Houston and we sat down for like 3 hours and had a chat. And I'm like, Jack, I want you to say a little word every morning because you always have something insightful to say. And he obliged. And now every morning we have a little word from Jack Van Beber that he picks up. Anyway, go ahead, my friend. Sorry to bore you, but I just wanted to tell that little story.
No. I appreciate knowing the background of the PDR posse that really come in and do the work. I mean, he does the work. He's there with you 6 a.m. every morning. I got to give reverence to that. And he spits hot fire whenever he talks. That's what I call it. He spits hot fire because it's never anything that I could say doesn't make sense. It makes all the sense in the world when he says it. And what I actually was calling. I saw that interview that you had done with the young girl who represented the pro-life movement.
Right.
And
let's call it
it was an interesting.
Let's call it the anti-abortion movement.
That, to be honest, that's what it really is. That's what it really is. And in the respect of that, I heard this young lady, and for all intents and purposes, she sounds like she genuinely believes what she's saying. Yes. I'll admittedly say I couldn't watch the entire interview because up to a point that she started upsetting me, and I give you all the credit in the world, Egberto, for being able to sit there and grit through those difficult conversations. But up to the point where she was basically saying that she's a Catholic and Catholics believe that sexual activity is only limited to the purpose of conception, and that is the only reason, and that should be legislated in our country. I have to say, I have to call BS. I mean, and I know she believes what she believes, but I know there's also people who are using people like her for an ulterior, more evil motive. Mm-hmm. And they're using people like her to push along the message, but they don't actually believe what she believes as strongly as she believes. They're just using her message. And I just wanted to say, it's hard for me to go out here in this world and deal with people like that when I know, like, you are doing the enemy's bidding and you don't even know it. But I can't hate you because you have, like, a legitimate belief system that is based on your values that you were raised with. So I can't hate on that, but I can hate on the fact that you believe and you want to make other people believe that my personal life should be governed based on your religious beliefs. And I'm not here for it. Right. I'm not here for it at all. But
let me tell you, Ray, what gave me hope. Because rarely when you get into a conversation with somebody on the right, will they back out and say, wow, I learned something, or I figured something out, or I have a new sense of understanding. And both on air and off air, that's what I got from her. I don't think anybody from the left, anybody that believes in the pro-choice movement, allowed her to tell her story so that then they could speak to her in the form that addressed her story. And I felt, in as much as it made a lot of our PDR posse irate, in knowing how I started with her and how she approached me for the interview, because remember, the reason I came onto that interview immediately was she sent me a very long, detailed letter. I want to be on your show. I think she thought that she would come on the show and simply articulate her position as a preacher or whatever, to let it be known. I don't think she realized that what she was going to get was a conversation where I was going to think and she was also going to think. And what happened is she started to think. The first inkling was when she said, when I mentioned about caring, I used the word caring. You see, they feel like they care so much about the fetus. But when I talked about you sounded so cold, so uncaring, that look at her. Anybody go back to that interview, look at how that triggered her, not her intellectual spirit, but it triggered her as being a good person. And she is a good person. And then it triggered her like, oh my God, you mean I am uncaring? And then from then on, in as much as I didn't change her from being an anti-abortion person, but we may have taken something off the edge where she wants to have complete control of somebody's life. And that's where I was going with. That's why I'm saying to everybody, Ray, you don't have to have the patience that I express with these folks, right? But please give me the latitude to do so, because I think we can make a difference. And with the PDR posse support of people who are willing to engage, I think we can help things off, if even so much.
Yeah, absolutely, Egberto. And I give you all the credit in the world. That's a talent, bro, to be able to sit there, because I can't even listen to it for so long without saying, wait a minute, I got to stop you, and that listening part, that's what I'm working on. That's one of the things you help me with in my daily life. When I'm watching you and listening to your show, I'm trying to pick up on that energy that you have, where you're able to you have a strong stance on what you believe, but
Right.
you're also willing to engage those who are completely in opposition to what your belief is. And as a progressive, I think that's one of my weakest points, being able to engage those who I don't agree with completely, like the pro-life, the anti-abortion movement, as you call it, as we call it. There are people like that young lady who genuinely believe what they believe is a good thing. And I'm here to say that it's a bad thing, because
Right.
you're literally, when I talk about conservatism, they always talk about individual freedoms. But when it comes to things like this, that goes out the window.
Right.
They don't care about individual freedom when it comes to telling you how and when to procreate.
Exactly. And you see, I don't know if you heard when I told her, Ray, I said, whenever I talk to folks that oppose my views, right, and especially those that are passionate in their opposition, I'm hoping that there's something that I can see within them that even may have me modulate what I think, right? Because that is how everybody isn't all right and everybody isn't all wrong all of the times. There are certain things that are absolute, but there are certain things that are gray area. And like I told her at the end of the conversation, or near the end of the conversation, I listen hoping that there's something you're going to change. And I told her, unfortunately, you didn't do that, but that's not on you. That is just on, how things are. So, but again, I think if we, I'm going to give a speech on, at the Unitarian Church on Sunday in Houston. And what I'm going to try to put out as well, I haven't decided what topics, but I know I'm going to include the topic where I talk about healthcare for all at Starbucks, and all of that's going to be in there. But I want to put out there that not everybody needs to sit down and just take all the crap, if you will, right? If you can't handle it,
I can't do it.
Right. And if you can't, there's no reason for you to stress out, because you know what? There are few of us who are willing to do that, and we will be the conduits. And believe it or not, we are but your conduits, right? In other words, we have a posse here, right? And each of the posse have its strengths, right? And what we learn to do, and that's why when I talk about believing in community and social beings, etc., all of us don't have to be pros at everything in this movement. As long as we're working together in a movement, we can actually effect change. Those of us who have the patience to speak to wackos, great. Those of us who have other talents, we use them. And we are full of many talents right here.
Yes, sir. And like Big Mama said on Soul Food, one finger pointing the blame ain't going to do much impact. But you take all those fingers and ball them up into a mighty fist, and you can strike a mighty blow.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That is exactly that is exactly how it should be, my friend. But anything else, my dear brother Ray?
As progressives. Yeah, as progressive, we got to be that fist. And I'm looking to try to get coffee with you one day, Egberto. It's been a while since I saw you. I'm so busy working. You busy working. We just haven't been in the same spaces, and I feel like it's been overdue.
Some weekend when you have time, let me know. We can meet somewhere in the center, where you don't have to drive way over here. I don't have to drive way over there. We just meet somewhere and shoot the bull,
Okay. Sounds like a plan. I'll email you then.
Sounds good, brother. We talk. Thank you for calling.
All right, man. Keep up the good work. Take care.
Yes, sir. All right, folks, that was one of our PDR Posse member, El Senor Ray. Anyway, folks, continuing with the story, what did I miss in the chat? Let's see. If I missed anything, forgive me. If I missed anything in the chat, I didn't like that girl. She was mostly religious. I get it, Breach. I get it. You don't have to like her. But I'll tell you, I liked her. But again, I like most of the right wingers that I speak to. I want to play you something that happened this morning on the show, on the KPFT show, because I want to show you what, you can actually be firm, respectful, and at the same time that change your values unless there's a reason, unless you learn something from somebody, you also should never fear because you have a particular belief. If it is proven that it needs modification, I don't think we should ever fear saying, I probably need to modify how I thought about that. I can tell you, I can attest to that personally where I've changed my beliefs based on new information or based on just learning, based on just realizing at some point I was a fool, so we have to get to that point in our life. But I want to play what happened this morning because I thought it's important. Check this out, because this person thought they were calling in to really slam me, but check this out. Let me get it to the right side, and we go there. Come on in, Brian. I'm going to cut that. You guys can read that at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. You have all the links to the shows. Talk to me, Brian.
Yeah. So can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I guess finally something took place that was in the correct column. All right.
Okay.
Yesterday, Biden.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did that make your life better?
It made my day better, but it didn't make my life better.
It didn't help you. Did it help you financially?
Well, no. Did it help?
Did it help? Did it make it better for anybody in your? Let me tell you why I'm saying this, brother Brian. I'm just telling you this because I want to show all of America that's listening to both of us right now. And by the way, thank you for calling. That the things that the media and the corporations have us thinking about are things that have no effect, no material effect on our lives. Or you're on your way to work right now, right, Brian?
Of course, yeah. I have a job.
And you would love to have good health care. You would love to be able to save a few dollars, and you need government to create policies to do that for you, right?
No, you don't.
No, you don't?
You don't need policy. No, you don't need policy.
Okay.
Social Security is a scam. It's a scam. Okay. You realize now, I'm glad you brought up the point of I need the government to help me live.
Yes.
Me survive.
Yes.
Really?
Yes, you do.
How much, if you did not enroll in Social Security, how much money would you have?
You would not have near enough to survive more than 20 years. I've already did the math for you. So let me just tell you this, sir. I mean, no. Everybody who takes Social Security, sir, let me tell you something. All right. It's the greatest lie that's out in the right now. And the reason why it's out there is so that stockbrokers can use your money to make a profit without promising you a return. Let me tell you what Social Security is. Social Security means that if the market crumbles, if something goes wrong, you always know that you have a basic level of income. It's an insurance policy to humanity in that particular country. I know what the right preaches, Brother Brian. I know that. What I'm going to ask you to do is just like how you are concentrating on Biden now, just like how you are believing that Social Security, if you put the money away yourself, you can do well. Make $7.25 an hour, make $15 an hour, and see how much money you could put away to survive on. Even if you're a great investor that invests at 7%. It is impossible. I did the actual numbers. The actual doesn't work. I'm telling you. It doesn't work.
I've done the numbers also. I've done the numbers also.
Brian, let me just say this to you respectfully, Brian, respectfully, let me tell you. If you are coming on our air to say that you've done the numbers and then you're telling me what you're telling me here, sir, I cannot hold what you say with validity because I am, as an engineer who does numbers, I've done it, sir. It's impossible, both for healthcare, both for Social Security and all these things. It is impossible for you to do it without the government, both for streets and everything else. It is impossible for us to exist without the composite nature of our social being with the government. It's impossible. You can live the dream, but it's a dream, not a reality. Go ahead, Brian. Thank you.
Okay, well, first off, do some history. My name is Brian. I go back all the way to Glenn Urbach. Mm-hmm. Check him out. I am the only three people that he ever invited on his program. Everybody else invited himself. He invited me to go down to 419 Lubbock. I've seen the transcript was blown up. I've done the numbers myself. And you said $7.25 an hour? You're gonna work $7.25 an hour for the rest of your life?
No, sir, you won't. But Brian, that's the thing. Brian, I'm running out of time and I need to go to Donald. And I love talking to you, right? Because you give me a chance to expose quite a few things. Call back every day as you want. You can call anytime on this show. But let me just tell you that in this case, the statements that you're making are mathematically incorrect. And if you would like me to write a paper to prove it to you, I will do so. Okay? Because you're wrong. You are wrong, sir. I can write it up for you. All right.
Okay, here's a problem. Here's a problem that this guy simply doesn't see. 40% of Americans, I just saw the stats that came across my feed today. 40% of Americans, if they got one $400 bill, they couldn't handle it. That's number one. Okay? That's number one. Okay, I'll write the paper, Daniel. I will. That is number one. So that leaves out 40% of Americans already that cannot save any money at all. All right? 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. So that is saying maybe only 40% of Americans can save anything substantive at all, meaning $20, $15, $30 a month. Now, for you to be able to save enough money that you can replace your income that Social Security would normally pay. Let's say Social Security will pay you on the low end $1,500, on the high end a maximum of, I don't know, $30-something $100, okay? You could not put enough money away. You could not put enough money away so that your own money plus its appreciation from, let's say, earning 7% per year, which was at one time the average growth rate of the stock market. You could not put enough money away for that. And don't also forget that within that time, you could be the unlucky one where you hit the dip in the stock market that affects the total capital that you have. Some people will say, well, just turn your assets into an insurance policy that pays you a monthly fee. I've researched that as well. And I tell you, from a mathematical standpoint, it is impossible for you to do it because here's how Social Security really works. We have X amount of people that are working and X amount of people that are collecting. And it's because we have more people working than people collecting that we can transfer those monies to the people who are not working. At one time, it was 7-1 or some number like that. I think now it's 3-1 or 2 or something like that. So that's the reason Social Security works. It's a matter of the people that are the larger number of people working are supporting that small number of people that are retiring. Again, you get that big delta, and it's all the masses paying for the rest. It's not a savings account. And the reason we had to have things like, we spoke about things like lock boxes and these issues were because we understood that during the baby boom period, which we're in right now, during that baby boom period, we would have had to have an excess capital because we're going to get the ratio of workers versus people collecting Social Security falling. This is simple math. And for those on the right to simply succumb to the math-based thing, and Eric, while you're my brother, love you, but you're an accountant. This isn't rocket science. This is amortization. You can actually do the number to figure out if I want to collect let's just call it $1,500 a month. It's going to be more, but let's say I want to collect $1,500 a month for the next 30 years. Figure out how much you would have to have in the bank, and then figure out how much you would have to save per month, starting at, let's say, 20 years old or 25 years old, wherever you want to start. And what you find out is it is impossible. It is simple math. And math has an uncanny way of really hitting you up. But the most important thing that many don't tell to you about is also something called risk, which means if your retirement occurs at a point where you have taken substantial losses, then it's even worse. So people, don't buy into the right-wing shenanigans. They want you to believe. They want you to believe that you can save your own money for retirement, but there's a sinister part of that. They want more. The reason why the government wants to control a portion of your Social Security, etc., is they want to give free money so that these fat cats on Wall Street can profit from your earned money. That's what they want. That's what they want. I know, Eric, we're talking about retiring at the age of 62. Okay, or even 20 years after that. Most people cannot. Most people cannot save enough for even 10 years of income, for even 5 years of income after retirement. And that's just because over the last 40 years, we have not kept up with inflation. We have not kept up with productivity. It is, again, math, basic math. Bruce says, what happens when that ratio inverts? We collect more from the workers. Exactly. When the ratio gets better, again, we just have to get over, at this point in our society, we have to get over the baby boom hump. The baby boom hump is a whole bunch of people that retire at the same during that big baby boom in the 40s. Now that they're retiring, it's a strain, and that's why we had a lockbox that we used to call the lockbox, right? But it was never really there because, again, people spent the money, right? And who did it again? Reagan did, and we can keep on talking about who did it, etc. All right, let's see what else we got here that I need to read before I go to the next video. Michael Ryan said, Yahoo Finance. The Secure Save study found a shocking 67% of Americans don't have enough money saved to cover the same hypothetical unexpected $400 expense. I think since Biden came into office with the subsidies and all of that, I think that went to 40%. I could be wrong. That may be a newer thing. I don't know. But I think Biden has bumped it to 40%. Or something like that, Rudden. But again, I don't have those numbers with me. I could be wrong. Daniel Adele says, thank God COVID came and weeded out the demographics, sucking up all the Social Security. Am I right, Maywood? Oh, boy. You like to say things for shock value. I get it. You may opt out of Social Security. You must legitimately fall into one of these groups and carefully consider the ramification. Exception for qualifying religious groups, certain non-resident alien foreign government employees, temporary student exemptions. Other exemptions include things like some teacher funds. They have a retirement plan, which is usually lousy. I like the idea of the government-based Social Security, the government-based healthcare, etc., and just make sure that we vote the right people into office. Anyway, let's go to the last video. Andrea Mitchell today asked a senator a question, and she implicitly equated the Hunter Biden story with the Trump story, which she had to take back at the end after the senator challenged her, but in a very calculated manner. I want you to take a listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side, because this is what needs to be done every time an anchor, a host, or someone else sort of make a flaw in the argument. Check this out. We'll take it on the other side.
I want to move on, though, to Donald Trump and Hunter Biden, actually. Your reaction as a family friend, as a Delaware senator, as a longtime, intimate of the Bidens, to this. It's more than a hiccup. The deal fell apart, and it has to be put back together again if he's going to figure out a way not to face a trial.
Well, Andrea, you asked me to comment on both Donald Trump and Hunter Biden, and I'll speak briefly to their respective legal challenges. The press is reporting that Donald Trump, former President Trump's lawyers have been notified by Jack Smith that he may well be indicted in the coming day or two for his alleged role in the January 6th insurrection. And Hunter Biden, as you just referenced, had a hearing in front of a district court judge in Delaware about a plea deal. The judge expressed some real concerns about the supervision of a piece of that agreement that would have allowed Hunter to avoid any prosecution for a gun-related offense. This is a common practice in prosecutions where you're a first-time offender, the offense is related to drug abuse, and you enter into a supervision agreement where as long as you do not reoffend in terms of anything involving owning weapons or substance abuse, that record is expunged. This was not unusual. But in this particular case, the judge was asking about who is going to supervise that. That piece of it fell apart. I expect that they'll be back in front of the judge with a revised deal in a matter of weeks. Here's what matters, Andrea. In one case, it is the former president who is trying to be the presidential nominee for the Republican Party who is facing very real legal challenges. In the other case, it's a private citizen, yes, the president's son, but someone who never served in the White House, who had no official role. I think that is a significant difference. None of this that relates to Hunter Biden and his history of substance abuse and his plea deal and the District Court of Delaware relates to President Biden. All of the charges that have already been laid against former President Trump in other contexts and that may soon be further advanced by an indictment directly relates to the conduct of former President Trump, in this case, in office. Conduct that resulted in an armed gang assaulting the building that I am in here in the United States Capitol. So let's just be clear. One is about the conduct of a former president in office, and the other is about a private citizen, the son of the current president. There's a stark difference.
You know, you are absolutely correct, and I should not have analogized those two things together in my haste. There's no question that they are of very, very different proportions. There's no comparison. What I meant to be asking you in my defense is, are you concerned about the House Republicans trying to make much of this now and saying that there is something to be investigated that could warrant opening an impeachment inquiry of the sitting president of the United States based on the fact that there is an ongoing investigation into his son's business dealings and the allegation that he was involved, which they have strongly denied and there's no evidence of.
And that is what's important. I give Andrea Mitchell a lot of respect for doing what she just did. In my haste, I analogized those things. In other words, I made those two very, very different analogies, very different things. I made them analogies. I should not have done that. In my haste, I failed, and I accept your correction, Senator, because now America got to get the differentiation between the two. I've said many a times, I'm not going to discuss Hunter Biden. It has no bearing on what's going on in our country right now, nor should any of us be making those two the same issues. They're not. And Bridge says, yes, son and dad, Donnie and Jared, where is the $2 billion? Notice also, Bridge, I didn't cover that subject either. That is corruption on the president's son-in-law side. I left it alone. And why did I leave it alone? I have no evidence of anything. I don't think any of us have any evidence of anything. If we find out later on that there's some evidence that puts the two together, then we can make that an issue. But until then, we don't make it an issue and we don't waste the time. Like I told the right-wing caller earlier on, I asked him, did talking about Hunter Biden make your day better? Did it help your family? Did it create public policy to assist? And that the answers for all of that was a resounding no, and therefore we leave it alone. Anyhow, folks, continuing, Rudnin says Republicans can play all the distraction games they wish, but Trump's going to prison over numerous major financial and civil crimes before the 2024 election, and the GOP might not survive that outcome. Trump's going to take the Republican Party down with him. Lee Grant says the acorn falls close to the tree. Well, you can say that. Well, what would we say about Donald Trump and his kids then? Donald Trump is a criminal. Donald Trump has always been a thief. Do we say that about him and all his kids? We probably should, right? Daniel Ledo says Andrea allowed herself to be reminded of the party line, at which point she dutifully apologized and corrected herself. Sad to see her reveal who controls her. No, she was just following the facts. That's all. Bridge MCP says, good idea. No evidence, no talkie. You get that right, my dear, beautiful Bridge. Eric Hayes says, rule of law. I agree, rule of law. Unfortunately, Donald Trump never understood that. And because he never understood that, he's going to jail. And I think that will be the best thing for the country. If the best thing can see, if the people can see good people ensuring that a criminal like Donald Trump goes to jail, that would be an asset. And that would be something so important for the rest of the world to see. We are truly a society in which everybody has equal access to law enforcement. Everybody has equal access for all of this. Anyhow, folks, we are coming close to the end of the program. I ask you so kindly to support us. politicsdoneright.com/support is the way you can find a multitude of ways to support this program. We cannot do this without you. We're out there, as you can see, we're in Chicago doing a whole lot of interviews, putting out a lot, joining people together. We've already connected you with our interviews. We've already connected different various groups together that said, I can work with this guy. We have a group called we have an interview with Unified. And other person calls up and say, hey, what is Unified doing? Unified is a tool we can use. And that's where the symbiotic relationship between activist groups, politicians, progressive activist groups, progressive politicians, progressive media, and all these organizations getting together to make a difference. It makes a difference. And by the way, all of you who support Politics Done Right and other progressive organizations, because we don't get from the corporatocracy, you are making a difference. So I ask you so kindly, please go to politicsdoneright.com/support and support us however way you can. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what?
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.